Hi, I'm Frank Ryan, the state representative of the 101st District in Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. I'm working on a bill to get rid of property taxes for school property taxes in the Commonwealth. It's really important to me that we do that. Our bill is described throughout the course of the next series of 8 articles that we're going to do to discuss all the major components that are so necessary for us to understand as informed citizens to make sure that we can get rid of the property tax and do it in a smart, informed way so that there are no unintended consequences. One of the first items that we're going to look at is this idea of critical economic issues. And in my world, I use a term called a critical success factor. And that critical success factor is anything, the presence or absence of which could lead to the success or failure of an individual, a school, an organization, or a community. You know, I'm a CPA. I've specialized my entire life, 4 decades, in keeping companies out of bankruptcy. We use critical success factors in my CPA practice as a means of focusing our energies in the business on those areas that are most likely to produce immediate results to avoid financial disaster. When we do that, we're dealing with some of the more painful issues of the business because we're focusing on those things that matter. They are near and dear to everyone's heart. And I'm going to do the same thing with property taxes. Analyzing critical economic factors affecting property taxes will help us focus on those issues that will likely lead to our success and at the same time avoid failure. The first critical economic issue is that property taxes are a fixed expense for the property owner. You're probably going to sit back and say, well, of course they are. And this seemingly innocuous statement is the crux of the problem, yet it's not frequently discussed. In other words, the person who is paying the tax has absolutely no flexibility in reducing their taxes when their income drops. In describing the problem, I often use the expression that a senior citizen is but one life event away from losing their home. Should a couple be retired and a spouse should pass away unexpectedly, the income reduction from the death is immediate, but the property taxes remain unchanged. I'm actually seeing cases where senior citizens are losing their homes at the same time they've just lost their spouse. I can think of nothing worse. By the same token, our school districts are perhaps some of the most fixed cost intensive businesses that I've ever observed. And it is a business. The very nature of the fixed cost for the school district means that they seek stability in funding. Why property taxes then are so attractive to school districts. They're predictable and they are certain. And that's the heart of the problem for the homeowner. We have mutually exclusive objectives. The one thing that benefits the school district hurts the homeowner, potentially. Property taxes are problematic for working families as well. Young working families are bearing the brunt of funding the state with the income tax, exploding health care coverage cost, and daycare expenses that are mind-numbing. Another critical risk factor is our tax structure and the limited job creation except in social services, because Pennsylvania is facing a tax code that is specifically geared to the taxation of income from working citizens. Retirement income is not taxed. I'm a senior, you can tell that by looking at me, and that's one of the most painful things that we have to come to grips with. And as this combination of the exodus of younger people from the Commonwealth and the migration in of older people, it's a financial disaster waiting to occur. Combine this trend with the fixed income of an ever-increasing senior base and an intense fixed cost to the school district, a financial collision is almost impossible to avoid. And that's why we have to address it head on with these critical risk factor analyses. A third critical risk factor relates to the nature of the fixed cost of the schools. This unfunded pension obligation of the school district in the tens of billions of dollars and the extremely high unfunded healthcare costs at the school district levels makes controlling spending at the school district extremely difficult. Let me give you an example. In 2019, the average school district will budget over 30% of its payroll for pension contributions, up from over 15% just a decade ago. Compounding the problem of unfunded pension obligations and post-employment costs for healthcare are the exploding cost of unfunded mandates from Harrisburg and Washington, D.C., as well as the cost of special education. These critical risk factors of fixed costs of the homeowner, fixed expenses of the school districts, demographic changes to an older Pennsylvania population, our tax structure in Pennsylvania in and of itself, unfunded pension liabilities, unfunded mandates, and the cost of special education all point to an ever-increasing burden on property owners. The trends of these critical risk factors are not good and are point to a pending financial meltdown. There are many who have opposed property tax elimination in the past, and for those of you who may feel that eliminating property tax is not important, I would encourage you to consider how you would react if the definition of property were expanded to include the present value of your Social Security and pension, your 401k or your IRA, and any other property you may have. This is a crisis, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely imperative that we understand that until we address this issue head on and deal with each and every one of these critical success factors, will we end up being successful. The bill that I'm working on to craft has addressed each and every one of these critical risk factors, because failure to do so would be negligent, and that word is not in my vocabulary. Thank you so much for your time.